Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about functions. So this equation up here at the top, f of x equals 4x plus 5, is a function. How do you know it's a function? Because of this notation over here. This f of x shows that it's a function. It's just basically similar to writing that y equals 4x plus 5, but instead of the y, you're just writing f of x. So technically, y is equal to f of x. So that's one thing you have to know. So it's really not that complicated. The notation, like how they've written it, is pretty hard to decipher, but it's actually pretty easy to work with functions. So let's get started. The first question on the left here says to find f of 3. Now, what do you notice from the initial equation and this one here? So the initial one says f of x. What that means is that whatever value of x you input into the function will give you your answer of y. So over here, they've given us that x is equal to 3. So they want us to basically just substitute whatever is here inside the brackets in the place of x. So here our equation is 4x plus 5. So we're going to do 4 times, because they're both being multiplied, x. And x that they've given us is 3. They want us to put 3 in the equation. And then we're just going to include the plus 5. If you simplify that, you're going to get 12 plus 5, and you know that's equal to 17. I hope that's pretty simple. It's really simple. All you have to do is whatever is inside the brackets, so basically whatever is here, is what you have to substitute back in your original equation for x. So let's work on the second example here. So it's f of 1/4. So let's write our original equation. So f of x equals 4x plus 5. And then let's substitute this value of 1/4 into the equation. Instead of x, we're going to put 1/4. And then we're going to add that 5. And if you simplify this, you're going to get 1 plus 5, which is equal to 6. So 6 is your final answer. So let's do the next example over here. Instead of x, we're going to substitute whatever's inside the brackets, which is 0. So we have 4x plus 5, and we're just going to substitute 0 for x and add it to 5, so it'll become 0 plus 5, which is equal to 5, and that's your final answer. So it's pretty simple. Overall, what you need to know is if they tell you to find the value of, let's say, f of 343, it's practically just substituting 343 as x back into your original equation here at the beginning. So let's do another example that's a bit more complicated. Okay, so here we have another equation. F of x is equal to 4x plus 5 over x squared. So it's going to be pretty simple. Honestly, the one thing that's different is the fact that we have a numerator and a denominator. So this is kind of like a rational expression. So we're just going to have to substitute for x. It's very simple, just the same concept. Wherever you see x, so here we have an x over here and an x over here, and this x is being raised to the second power, we're just going to substitute whatever we find in our brackets down here. So let's do that. First, we're going to take f of 0, and we're going to substitute whatever's in the bracket. So we have 0 inside of the bracket. So if it's 4x plus 5 over x squared, you're just going to substitute 0. So 4 times 0 plus 5 over 0 squared. So then 4 times 0 plus 5 is 0 plus 5 over 0, and you know that nothing can be divided by 0. That's a rule of thumb. One way that I like to think about that is if you have 0 over any number, it says the word on, which means yes, you can divide, and the answer will be equal to 0. Now, opposite to that, if you have any number here represented by n over 0, it says no, so that means that you cannot, so it's no. And the answer will be undefined. Undefined basically means no solution. So you can just write no solution for the answer. So this equation, the answer is no solution. Why? Because 0 plus 5 over 0 is equal to 5 over 0, and 5 is a number. You know, when it's a number over 0, it spells out no, so you cannot include it. I hope that makes sense. So let's do the next equation over here, the next example. We have f of 1/2, and they just want us to substitute that. So we have 1/2 in the x, so let's just substitute 1/2. So instead of the x over here at the top, we're going to substitute a half, add 5, and then we're going to do 1/2 squared. Okay, So now we're going to simplify the top. If you guys come here, that will simplify to 2 plus 5, and the denominator will simplify to 1/4. So if you do 1/2 squared, you're going to get 1/4 that we see over here. And to simplify this, what I like to do is write the numerator 7 divided by 1/4. So then I would write this as 7 divided by 1/4. And then whenever you divide a fraction, you know that you take the reciprocal. So you basically flip this over and it'll become 4. So then that becomes 28, and 28 is your final answer. Okay, so now we're going to try another example. Here we have f of x is equal to 3x squared over x plus 1. Now there's quite a bit of x's, but it's really simple, self-explanatory like we did previously. Whatever is inside of the brackets, you're just going to substitute it in place of x in your original equation. So let's substitute 3 because that's what's inside of our brackets. So if we have the equation 3x squared over x plus 1, instead of x, we're just going to substitute whatever value we have. So they've given us 3, so we're going to substitute 3. And as you can see, I'm just placing it wherever you have an x in your equation. So instead of x, we're just putting a 3. So if you're doing 3 times 3 squared is basically 9 over 3 plus 1. You know 9 times 3 is 27 over 3 plus 1. 27 over 3 is equal to 9, so 9 plus 1 is equal to 10. So your final answer is just 10. Now let's do the next equation. The next one is f of 1/3. So they're just telling us to substitute 1/3 into the equation. So we have the equation 3x squared over x plus 1. Let's substitute 1/3. So 3 times 1 over 3 to the whole square over 1/3 plus 1. I'm running out of space here, so I'm just going to push it up. But we have 3 times, if you square 1/3, it's 1/9. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, 1/3 to the whole square is basically 1 square over 3 square. And 1 square is just 1, and 3 square is equal to 9. Hence why we got 1 over 9. And then we're going to divide everything by 1/3 and add 1. And then if you simplify the top, you'll get 1/3, because 3 times 1 over 9 is basically equal to 1/3. 1/3 over 1/3 plus 1. And now what I like to do is divide this, because you always have to divide before you add. So I like to write it as 1/3 divided by 1/3 in brackets plus 1. I'm going to move a bit up. So then we have 1/3, and you know when you're dividing fractions, you always take the reciprocal of the second number. So 3, basically reciprocal just means the opposite. So 3 will become the numerator, so it becomes 3 over 1, which is just 3. So we're going to do 1/3 times 3 plus 1, which is just 1 plus 1, which is equal to 2. So your final answer is 2. So if you come all the way back up here, first what we did was we substituted f of 3. So we substituted 3 in the place of x, and then we got the answer as 10. And then we did the same thing for 1/3, and then we got the answer as 2. So that's your final answer.